Good morning, DragonCon. Good morning. How are we doing on Sunday morning? Who still thinks it's Saturday night? Did everybody have fun Saturday night?
Yeah.
Did everybody go out Saturday night? Who stayed in their room? That's far too many. What are you doing at night? Watching DC TV? That is acceptable. Did everybody get the QR code that you'll use to submit questions via Discord? Of course, I want everybody to have an opportunity to be able to submit their questions. If you don't have a phone, if you don't have Discord, if you want to ask maybe your neighbor next to you, if they wouldn't mind submitting a question for you, that's perfectly all right as well. I want everybody to have a good time. We're going to go ahead and get started. Of course, we won't be talking about the properties. This will be a general Q&A panel. It'll be great and wonderful, and I know that I am so excited for these guys. This is like, I'm not gonna fanboy, but I want to so bad. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring up our wonderful guests. Let's go ahead and start giving them a round of applause. First, we are going to bring up Lindsay Wagner. Mr. Lee Majors. It's early. It's early. Good morning. How are we doing this morning? You need some coffee?
No, I better not. It'll make me want to pee.
We're not doing that on stage.
Too early. Do you have any water up here?
Can we get some water, please?
I mean, this is really not a first-rate show here, you know?
Shade already. We're seeing how this is going to go. How are we doing this morning?
God bless the child that's got his own.
And some come prepared. We should be prepared as well. And I'm sure we're getting you that water. Oh, yep, she's going to bring it up right now. Do you want two?
Oh, wait. Hold on. You forgot.
You think you'll
Should
bring
one
through
for me and
one?
one for her? Oh, just one.
Just one's fine. Thank you. You have something that you want to share with us?
No, I got a press package handed to me as I was coming out of the hotel. I don't know what it actually is. So.
All right. Well, we're going to get a surprise.
I don't know about that.
A family-friendly surprise.
It came from our press agents, so, well, it says if you haven't heard, Lindsay and Lee are going to be filming a new franchise movie. It will be the first of many. It will be called Bionic Force 1. Thank you. And the press release, because it says Colonel Steve Austin and Jamie Summers will be secretly embedded and working out of an old age home. They will pretend to be old. They'll be chasing the bad guys in wheelchairs and golf carts. It will be full of action and crashes, mostly by them.
I'd watch it.
And it'll be coming to a theater near you at Halloween and will be streaming on the No Such network. So get your tickets early as it will be sold out, and then look next year for Bionic Force 2.
Are we in time for that?
And you, Lindsay, you good for that?
Of course, I'm in.
Streaming,
We
maybe not
did
streaming.
3 movies before we did the series. We did 3 movies after we did the series. And Lindsay said, "You think they'll own another one?" I said, "No, I hope not. If we do, we'll be at an old age home and we'll be chasing them in wheelchairs." And now that I'm 84, young lady is 60, she'll be pushing my wheelchair. Anyway, good morning.
That's why I didn't watch it.
A little fun there just to start. Hopefully.
While we're kind of on the subject, we
Of what? How did you interpret that?
Don't be bashful.
items that we will not specifically name, but vaguely address. Could you tell me, like, I'd love to know how it feels to, after acting so long, how you sort of understand having an impact on the culture and being maybe purposeful or inadvertent role models. What does that mean to you, and what sort of like realization did you come to when you knew that after like decades you still had a lasting impact?
Well, for me, it was very intentional on one hand, for me, because when they asked if I was short, when they asked if, when they wanted me to do the show initially, I did it thinking it was just a couple of episodes, right? It was only supposed to be a couple of episodes, then everybody just seemed to love it, but then the studio said, no, they can't stay together because that's not our franchise, and so eventually they decided to make 2 shows in the series. And if I was going to do that, what I didn't want was to do an action show where I was playing the lead role, which was great for a woman because it really hadn't been done like that before. But I didn't want to be a guy in a skirt, the typical good guy, black and white, this kind of, I wanted to put a lot more things into it. I wanted responses for her to be more of what might naturally come from a woman. And so we worked very hard on that and and creatively how would a woman use her power slightly differently because she thinks different. And how we did stories, some of the stories where, are you doing your time in me here?
I'm just moving my thing so you can get a better shot at that.
Thank you. For example, we did some where Jamie was acknowledging how that was the guy that I had to go capture and take down, so to speak, because, well, such and such was being done, but we also wrote things in that made the reflection that she saw this as a person. This is somebody who's doing something like, it was the Russians that we were very, it was the Russians and the Americans, and kind of sort of is today, but not like it was then, because now we're mad at everybody, but so to recognize that he was doing, that Jamie had to do this, but that person was doing for their country too. To acknowledge the whole and still do what you have to do. And
Right,
it's kind of a
do what
mother
you want to
woman's
do.
job. You acknowledge with the whole family, you're trying to keep everybody together, and you acknowledge everybody's feelings, and theoretically that's what, that's kind of the natural thing. So it was a number of things that we put in like that. And so as women, because the kids grew up, y'all,
Yep.
they had that sense of permission. And even some men have told me how the show impacted them, saying that it gave them a sense of the fact that strength and power and sensitivity can also exist in the same person. Even though it was a woman, they took it into themselves and found that helpful for their life. So there's been some really interesting things. I never dreamed it was going to be as huge as it was. That I can say. All I knew is that our intention was to put something out to kids saying, hey, you can do more than we're typically trained to be, as boys and girls. So that was a shocking thing.
How do you feel about being a role model? Was that something that you had foreseen, or something that you sort of stepped into?
I never thought anything about it really, but, because I started a little bit before, in the 60s, 63, and that's 1963. And no, I started at the Big Valley, and back then, we were starting out doing like 40 shows a season, and then we went to 39 forever. That's a long time. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know much about reruns at the time, so they thought they had to get more episodes in the can. So, of course, then when they found out that they could start rerunning, now how many do you get? 8? Anyway, so the Big Valley, I was getting used to, but I was working. You work, as you can tell, we worked 8 hours a day for sure, and sometimes 9 and 10. And you have to be back at 5 o'clock in the morning. And even she has to be there early because, the makeup lady can set up. I can just throw my clothes on and go, guys are. So, and I never got out much at that time. And then when I went into 2 or 3 more series, and then finally got to and they were in a row. I mean, there was probably some you've never heard of. I was in the Virginia for a year.
Yep.
A lawyer series called Owen Marshall Concert Law for 3 years, and I was in the 3rd year when they finally came to me and sent me this script called Cyborg, and anyway, you know what happened from there. But and then of course I happened to get married there somewhere, and then the young lady kind of turned her into a phenomenal there, Farrah Fawcett. So we couldn't. It's hard to go anywhere. So I never really got an inkling of that, other than they like what you're doing, but and then when you go on and on and on, it wasn't probably in the last 10 years when I've been able to do more traveling around the world and running into people that are in those countries and saying how they used to, when there was, even if it's on a small island in one TV, they'd say, oh, we'd gather down there at Saturday night or Friday night, and everybody would come because we only had one. And then you hear that going around, then you think, that's pretty special to have. That show was pretty special, actually. And so I never really thought about that. And I didn't start these Comic-Cons maybe the last 10 years or so. And I think it was 10 years ago that I was here at DragonCon. And so I don't think of myself that way. I'm just an ordinary guy that came from a little town in Kentucky and worked hard, and we got here today. I'm happy to be here. And see, we got a full house. Everybody's got a hangover this morning. Well, anyway, let me stop there and go on. But I never think of myself as that. I just appreciate all the fans that do say hello and they love our work. I'm sure she feels the same way.
We have a question from the audience. This is from, it's Kiza or Kiza, if you're with us. Wave hello. Thank you so much. They submitted a question very in the stream of what we're talking about. For Lindsay, who inspired you as a young person?
You mean just in general, in life, or in this film?
Who shaped the character that you created, I guess?
Me. Well, for the most part, I think most actors, not necessarily all, but we dig into ourselves to find what comes out. And I had already been very much into the study of body, mind, spirit connection, and as you heard my reflection about what my intention was with the show, that when I made my deal to do this series, I had actual collaboration rights to what was written. And which is the only way I would do that one, because as I mentioned, I didn't want to do the good guy, bad guy, black and white show, and I won because boink, I can hit you and it's all over, so I wanted to explore certain things. And when I was younger, I had ulcers when I was just a kid. I was really starting when I was 14. By the time I was 19, I got over it by way of my boyfriend's mother, who was, went to a specific church that was basically I call it the holistic view of Christianity, which is the body, the mind, and the spirit, and all of that is interconnected. And so when I was sick, UCLA was wanting to operate on me, and Carrie's mom came to the hospital and said that we can help you if you want to see if you can heal this yourself. And so I said, well, sure, just let me die. They put me in a private hospital. They brought in a doctor friend of theirs who was also very holistic in thinking. And between the minister, Dr. Barney, and Dr. Fareed, the actual medical doctor, they taught me to meditate as well as to pray and how to integrate that kind of thing. Visualization, you use visualization to see my body healed, done, finished, to not think about or use language that keeps me holding on to it, like my ulcers. No, they are the ulcers, the problem I have at this moment. It's not mine, and I don't have to keep it business. It's working with my mind. And then they also had me, for example, write an autobiography where I could remember, whenever I could remember in my life, and put it in chronological order. And then to remember my whole life, whenever I could remember being sick, and they even suggested that I ask my family for help. When you remember you being sick, even colds and stuff like that, or syndromes. And so I wrote that chronologically. And then he put them two together. And he said, you see, this is, he's tried to, and he was showing me, because I said, I don't think that this is caused from stress. And he said, well, we'll see. So I had this whole assignment, and they had me on a very strict fast. This went on for 6 weeks. And at the end, he showed me, and it was, I could see what was going on in my life, in my family, and things that were very tough at times. Right after that, I would get sick, because I said, even in my life, when things are really bad, I don't get sick. And he showed me that shortly after, it was always after. And he said, you have this personality where you have the ability to take care of things. You know, I have a fifth gear. Some things are going wrong, I just shift into it. No feelings allowed. Do what you gotta do. I'm sure a lot of you men can relate to that, because it's more of a typical thing, especially if you've been in the military or whatever. And so that training, and then I saw that what I didn't do was acknowledge my feelings once it was okay. So I just kept it in. And he said, basically, your feelings are eating their way out of your stomach. It's like, that's your body expressing, let me go. So with that training, and then learning to relive my life, learning to notice when there was a problem and I was having a problem, and to deal with it here and now, not to neglect my feelings. And if I had to put things on hold, do not treat yourself well. You know, would you tell your child who had a problem, you know, we can't deal with it right now, and then just never deal with it? So, anyway, there was this wonderful training. I mean, to be blessed with that at 19, to learn to take care of myself in that way. And it's a journey because you have to retrain your brain because we're grown up a little different. So that's kind of the mindset that I went into the series with, is what we're coming back on this. And so I would say that those people maybe that helped me through that and taught me a little bit more about what it really means to be human and how amazing we actually are, because in 6 weeks they were gone and I didn't have to have any surgery. I mean, it was more, I don't know what really happened, I don't know all the details. But so I just wanted to, knowing that this was a kid's show in general, a family show, nonetheless, for children, I wanted to put things in there, things that would inspire them to acknowledge that they are more than they realize they are. And including whoever's watching, mom, dad, you know, whatever it is. So that's, I guess they're the ones that I would say inspired me to do that with Jim. Not the acting part. The acting part. That's what I mean when I said well acting. What do you mean? I said, no, okay, so.
Lee, who were the people?
Don't you have a wonderful book on that? Don't you have a book?
A book about?
No, I have, the book is an acupressure piece that, no, that was, well, it's about stress. I'm actually working. I'm working.
Yeah,
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm working on my memoir for the last 6 years. but I'm hunting back on my iPad. I don't even know how to use a computer. I don't type, so it's a memoir, and I hope to get it out this next year.
Yeah.
Might help me because I have a hard time writing about myself. It's like I have a hard time talking about myself unless somebody asks me a question. Yeah, no, I know, and he asks questions, and then we do that, and then he's we're a busy producer, and so we don't see each other for another 6 months. Okay, we'll work on the book.
I was gonna. I'm just happy to sit here and listen to you both talk.
I don't remember what the question was.
Would you like to name a few people who helped, inspire you that?
Inspired me?
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, the people who inspired me was the people that I worked with when I started. Marv Stanley was a huge film star, and everybody was shocked that she was going to be the mother in Big Valley. And excuse me, I learned very quickly from her. I remember what she said. She said, be on time, know your words, get your marks where you gotta be, and then keep your mouth shut, and you'll go a long way. But I gotta tell you, the first piece of film I ever did was a black and white little movie, believe it or not, with Joan Crawford. Wow. And it was called Straight Jacket, a black and white movie by William Castle, and I had my first role. I was so excited, and this is where I got my card.
Wow.
63 years ago. And I had this role where I'm at a bar at the beginning of the picture, very first scene. I'm at the bar, and I'm trying to woo this young lady, back to the ranch. And so the music's playing loud, so there's no dialogue, and I'm supposed to be, and then, so we did about 4 or 5 takes, and then the director.
He's blushing.
That's all I knew. The director came over and he said, "Okay, I want you two to ad lib." She said, "Okay, yeah." I said, "What's ad lib?" She said, "We want you to say something, talk." I don't have any lines. Well, think of something. Maybe action, and come on home with me, baby. Come on home with me, baby. Come on home with me, baby. I must have said that 7 times. Good. And then, that was, it never made the screen. So back to the original one where it's, anyway, then you end up back at the ranch, and here comes Joan Crawford walking down the dirt road with a little sack over her leg, and she's just got out of a mental hospital. And unfortunately, she sees a light in the back room of the house, and she goes around and peeps in the window, and there you see me and a young lady just lying there asleep. And then she backs up in horror. That's because this is supposed to be a scary film. Backs up into the old chopping block. Oh, there's an axe. Guess what? Big old axe. Next thing, you see us in the bed, and across on the wall, you see this shadow that goes down. And you see his head fall. That was me.
The young lady.
Wait. And then the credits came on. I was killed before the credits came on. You know, Straight Jacket starring Joan Crawford, and I never even got credit in the movie. But they played it at my theater in Kentucky, Middlesboro, Kentucky, right on the Tennessee-Virginia border, and a little bitty theater. They put on the marquee, Lee Majors starring in Straight Jacket. Also starring Joan Crawford. And I'm so glad I didn't go back to that movie. And they grabbed the theater, but I was dead before the credits. How embarrassing is that? But Joan Crawford, that's the only reason I bring it up, is because she taught me something, which was the first thing before Stanley. It was, if you can't take rejection, you're in the wrong business. So, you know, how many times we get rejected for going in on auditioning for a role? That's the thing. She
Okay, a couple times.
But you know, we were very lucky to be doing the shows that we did, because you guys were a captive audience. There was only 3 networks, right? And then, so we'd do all these shows, and you'd come every week, because that's the only thing you had to watch other than the news. And now you've got 64 networks and cables and stuff. It's a different world. And then they start streaming, and then they started with what hurt actors a lot. They've studied their craft for many years, is that they started doing reality shows. And people cling to the reality shows, and these people who are in them become stars overnight. And sometimes that can be bad. And then you wonder, like, whatever happens to them after a year, with songs for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then you never hear from them again. Sometimes I keep wondering, what's Snooki done now? You never know. I mean, it's tough business. And we were very fortunate. We were very fortunate. God blessed me, I'll tell you that.
I love that.
Thank you, Father.
I'm not. We're talking about.
Okay, you want to try something else? Oh, good.
Yes. And speaking of.
Which way do I exit?
Of writing memoirs about having a life in the industry, Timbers, who is here with us hopefully in the audience, wave hello. There he is. Asked a question: how do you handle being on a project that you may believe is canceled way too early? Do you just sort of roll with the punches because that's the industry, or
You cry.
Any touch with the feelings is great.
You just go on to the next. Sometimes it's a mystery, and sometimes the longer you're in the business, you realize too that it's sometimes can be political, and not necessarily like government political, but
Thank God.
inter company, stuff like that. I mean, I did a series called Peaceful Kingdom. Anybody remember that? Couple people. So it was so fun. I was a businesswoman who took over two little kids and took over the job of the LA Zoo, running the zoo, because it was kind of failing and business was wacky. And that was when a lot of it was in a time when those little kids are now 40 and 30, 36, so give you a time frame. And it was all when animal rights movements were getting, were amping up. So it was very timely, and it was so cute because we lived on the premises of the zoo. And it was about that. It was about, we had a section of it that was devoted to research to help species and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was pretty cool. And that one, we were all surprised when we let it go. And it's still a mystery, that one. It's still a mystery. I don't know what that was about. But anyway, my granddaughter is now, she's 8, and she's never really seen any of my work because most of it was pretty, I did mostly television movies after Bionic Woman and a few features, but they were more grown-up, issue-oriented movies about our culture, domestic violence, indigenous history, all kinds of stuff. And so she's seen very little of what I've done. And I found, when I was moving this time, I found some copies of some of the Peaceable Kingdom shows, which was totally family show. And so I'm so excited. They live here in Georgia. So when this show is over, I'm going to stay with them for a week, and we get to play them for us, so I'm kind of excited.
Yay.
You both have had children that have entered into the same industry. How can you prepare your child for this specific industry? Or do you just sort of let them, test the waters on their own?
Well, my kids grew up in it. I always had my kids with me. Wherever I went, I'm on location, they'd come with me. I had a trailer, a big fifth wheel, that was my dressing room. And you walk in and it looked like a nursery school because we kind of grew up in that trailer. And from the get-go, I mean, when I first had my first child, we were a nursing family, and so I told him, "You want to hire me for this movie? And, you got to know that every 2 hours I'm ducking out for about 15, 20 minutes, and so take me the whole package or don't take me." And so I was surprised my agent said, "You're never going to work again." And I went, "Oh, we'll see," but that's the deal. And sure enough, people. It was interesting, and I met different quality people that ran those shows. It was really interesting. I think some really nice people out here. Not that the other people weren't nice, but it was like, they were just like, "Oh, it's cool to have a baby on the set." It was like, "Oh." So anyway, they grew up there, and they got to see, and then we would talk sometimes. If I was frustrated, I would share with them in kids' language. Everybody's getting a little puffy, and I just got a little frustrated, and that happens, but you just gotta keep your cool. And I was basically talking child language, how I was trying to keep myself together. And so I think they got a very different view of it. And their dad was still was very well-known stuntman, and so they would hang out with him as well at times, and they ended up going into stunts. I think being around it, they got to be on it. As far as that, when you say, then there's the personal part of it. Yeah, I don't know, maybe that was part of your question, because it has a lot not to do with what goes on as far as children go, what goes on the set and stuff like that. It has to do with when you go out and everybody's coming over to your table and bugging you if you go out to dinner, or, you know, it's that kind of thing. And, not that we don't appreciate the, you know, the thank you for what you're doing, but just having a family night, it was really hard. And that was the part probably that was more difficult than anything. But again, it's all the way you see it and how you deal with it, me, meaning me. And sometimes it was really fine, and sometimes it would just nicely say, you know, we're really having a family dinner, I'm sorry, but okay, if we don't do it this time, maybe we'll meet another day, instead of going, get away from me, you know, it's like that kind of thing. And so the kids observed all of that.
Sure.
And it's interesting now because my oldest son played, any of you Star Wars people? He plays, he's the actor, I guess there's a couple of them, but he does Cad Bane. He's the Cad Bane character. And he also, you know, he was the double for the Silver Surfer, and that's the guy with the gun on the motorcycle. What was that?
Ghost Rider.
Huh?
Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider?
Ghost
Ghost
Rider.
Rider, yeah.
Wonderful.
He just did another one that was pretty. Anyway, so he does Comic-Cons now, and for the Cad Bane character. And it's interesting watching him because I see his personality, and he's so respectful and grateful to people that he gets to share things with, just like we do here at the cons with people. So I'm very proud of who they became, actually.
That's great. I know people were very excited when that specific character popped up in Mandalorian. Lee, how did you handle preparing your child to be in the industry?
I didn't. And in today's world, I wouldn't even know how to start preparing a child for anything. I can't understand it. You know, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Speaking of teaching things, we were lucky enough to have Lindsay do a workshop here at DragonCon with us called Shift Your Perspective. What really sort of inspired you to want to share and try to teach that information with others?
Well, just having that orientation to life to begin with, and it really made me want to know so much more about who and what we are and how we are as human beings and what our potential is. Because when I had that 6 weeks later, they're gone experience, I just wanted to know more about us, because that certainly was not mainstream information. When you get sick, you go to the doctor, they know everything about you, you don't know anything, and take this and you're done. Or you're not, or you know what I'm saying? So, I guess personal empowerment got into the problem. So I studied all kinds of things. I studied different religions, I studied holistic health, all different types of natural medicines. And it all helped me in my life. And at one point, when I was doing some of my own therapy work with a particular counselor, she used a technique with me from something that happened in my childhood that I was still trying to deal with. And it was called the emotional freedom techniques. Anybody ever done any of the tapping processes or seen any of that? It's pretty amazing stuff. And it just kind of blasted it out very quickly. I said, all these years I've never done this. Boom, 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 and just totally chilled that out, that response in me. And so not too long after that, I've worked for many years with the child abuse agency. It's the Agency Council of Child Abuse and Neglect in Los Angeles County. And through them, I met one of the women who were involved in that. Her job was to, one of the things she was doing was to set up programs for LA County Jail. And it was, well, she did it for the women, but mostly she was working with men, setting up programs for men who wanted to to do some interpersonal work, but also it was like she would set up programs for the family who would teach them parenting, so that when the kids would come visit, and she badgered the city to get a playground for them, so when the family would come visit, they could actually do natural things with the kids, people who were not mass killers or anything like that. But so she said, I have this program that I'm doing now. You should come see it. It's for domestic violence offenders. And so I did, and I just sat there and was crying because it was this room of 20 or 30 men that were doing all of these exercises. They wanted to heal this response. They wanted to be a better part of it and wanted to work together. And the man that she had found to come teach it was an extraordinary guy, just an amazing guy. And I just went to talk to him and share, how after the class was over, tell him how wonderful it was. And we got to talk, and he heard about the work that I had been that I had been doing. And I said, you should do that with your clients. It will help speed up everything they're trying to disconnect. It's that tether to that conditioning that creates that response. And so he said, why don't you come teach it? And I had already been doing it with friends. I'd already been with my children, because it was so wonderful and so easy to learn to help yourself that I agreed to do it. So I worked in the jail program for quite a while, and then at one point, I ended up doing programs in my house. This was people that I knew, and find other people, because they'd say, well, would you want to teach and do somebody else? I said, let's do group. So Mr. James taught me how to do groups when I worked with him. And then it just started blossoming. Somebody heard about it from somebody that went, and she said, would you come to Idaho and do one for our church? And okay. And it just caught fire. As you say, it went viral. These days, right? And
You did, yeah. And if we can keep you coming back, we'd love to have more of these opportunities for you to share your wisdom. Lee, if you, given the opportunity, given that DragonCon would be lucky enough to have you teach a workshop, what would you like to teach? What would you like to teach?
if you were going to do a workshop, what might you want to do?
I'm way past workshops. This is a workshop. She's very easy to do that stuff. Me, I'm just looking for the next job,
He likes to work, and by the way, he's the most punctual. She had an effect on him because he's the most punctual actor I've ever worked with, which is a real good thing to say.
I apologize for my glasses today because I do have a little eye problem. Maybe you've heard of something like macular degeneration. There's not much cure for it, but you get a needle in your eye every so often. When I first started, it was every couple of weeks. Then it went out to 8 weeks. But it's pure blur in this one, You wouldn't know if I was sleeping or not because you can't sleep. So that's why, and also with the air conditioning and the lights, that makes it water. So that's why. So I apologize for that. Other than that,
You're good.
But I had both knees replaced. Still good to go. It was hard of hearing in one ear. That's why I think I'm sitting on this side. But there's some people out there that are my age that know what happens. So we just anyway. I'm just happy to be here.
We're happy to hear you.
They're speaking out the back there. They're talking like fly. Maybe we should kind of cut this short a little bit. What do you think?
They say no.
They're just getting older.
It is early, yes.
It's just cold in here, that's all.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
freezing.
little chilly in here.
You know, you have to be careful what you say. I learned that yesterday. I should have said the first word I said when I got here when you said you want some coffee because, you know, right here in front of me, there's a sign that says, please remember you may be on
DragonCon TV.
DCTV right now. You've got no idea where it's going.
I think we refer to that as adding a little flavor to it. We have a great question from another member here in the audience. Karen, wave hello if you're with us. There they are. Lee, you were in 2 best westerns ever. Would you like to talk about the physical demands of being in westerns? It looked dusty, hot, and strenuous. How difficult was it to act in westerns?
Well, the first one was the Big Valley, okay? I went in on that audition, I did a pretty good reading, and the question they asked, can you ride?
Yes.
I said, like the wind. And then they called me back to do a screen test. Did good. Called me back to do another screen test with a young lady who hopefully gave me kind of an instance that I might be really close to getting this. And to see if this young lady could play the sister. And the young lady that I auditioned with helped her in the scene was Linda Evans, who became Audra in the Big Valley and Dynasty. She was in later. But there was a period of time when you say you've got the role and before you start shooting, then you don't know it's going to be picked up by the network. You shoot a pilot, we had some bunch of time before we shot the first show, the pilot, and there's a long time after. And I was working at North Hollywood Recreation Parks and Recreation. I was, making $2.15 an hour. Yeah, that's rich. And so anyway, I was living, I had a little place way out in the outskirts there of LA, and I immediately got with this Wagner. And I had written like comfortable writing, but anyway, he taught me a lot. He was a champion. He and his brother were champion trick rope artists also in Madison Square Gardens for many years.
Wow.
But he taught me a lot. Taught me how to calf rope, and I learned a lot about horses. And began to really love horses, and so I ended up with a couple up there. So that's the hardest part. But you got to get ready for what you got to do. But Western, then it became fun. Every time I'd go, I was hoping we'd have be able to do with the horses today. Anything outside. And if it was, I'd have to get mine ready, and I would be able to go anywhere I wanted around the area because we were out in some wild country, and I learned. So it was just fun. When you're in your 20s, you're invincible anyway. So you think, anyway, the very first big movie Western I did was my first big movie, I guess you could say. It was a thing called Will Penny, and it was Will Penny, and Will Penny was Charlton Heston, and he was such a great guy to work with. But we shot it up in Northern California, and it was in the snow and stuff. So it was. I just loved it because the more action there was, the more I loved the work. It makes the day go faster. And a lot of the stuff I started doing, especially in the Westerns, because I was just as athletic because I played college football, and I was just as athletic as some of the stunt guys. In fact, that's why I would do a lot of stuff. But I would always make sure that the stunt, I got paid for the stunt, and also he did coordinate everything, choreographed it, and so it was a fun part for me. Okay, that's all in Westerns.
Speaking of being prepared for different types of of films. Marie, here in the audience, wave hello if you're still with us. There they are. She asked Lindsay, how was it working with a lion and an elephant?
Or me.
The actual...
That was probably
The lion and the elephant were easy.
compared to...
Well, I actually liked working with animals. I know the old, Hollywood sayings like never work with animals or kids because they steal the scene. But for me, it was fun. It was a nice break because usually it was a fun kind of a scene or something. And I did a lot of drama. So, but. Well, I guess I'll.
Please do, we want to hear it, do we not?
Bring it. No. Just a suggestion.
a little intimidating, that little sign.
Just turn it over.
Turn it over. He said turn the sign over.
Elephants was no brainer, it was just fun, but the lion was a different story. I mean, it was cool at first because you see everybody kind of being around him, very slow moving. They swore he wasn't drugged. I don't believe it, but it was, and plus he was really old. He was old, and so we had scenes where we were just sitting around together, and then there was scenes when there was this one scene where I was standing next to him and talking. I don't remember who I was talking to or what I was doing. But he, all of a sudden, like if this is my leg, this is his head, he all of a sudden started going like this. And his teeth kind of just gently, just kind of like, oh! And the handler kind of slowly walked up and just be still. And then he took the lion away, and I said, what was that? And I said it in different words. And he said, I don't mean to be personal, but is this by any chance your time? And I said, yes. And he said, they should have told me that. I said, it's a male elephant. It's a male elephant, and the scent apparently is the scent. And so we had to restructure that scene and go back to others. But another funny thing with that lion, we were sitting down a couple of days later. We were sitting down on the scene when we're waiting for Tippy, I guess, to come back. I don't know if you remember that episode well enough. So we were all sitting on the grass. Who was with me there?
Her granddaughter?
A kid, yeah, I guess, right, a child. And myself and the lion. And the lion is supposed to, when she drives in the driveway over here, the lion's supposed to turn and look and get up and go over to Tippy. Because it's like, oh, mom's home. That was the desire. And so we did it again and again and again, and the lion just kind of snapped me. And his name was Neil. And so, Neil. I mean, I've dreamed about the word being Neil going in my head for like weeks after, because we said Neil so many times in those number of days that we worked with him, trying to get this lion to do something, and it turned, and finally they couldn't get him to turn around. He turned around and looked, and he'd go. And we were supposed to go over there. And so what they did, there's this one guy that whatever he smelled like, he had to stay away from that lion because they found that he was kind of, I don't know if it was an aggression thing or what, but anyway, what they did was they had him come in, like, so where the car was supposed to be, where the lion was supposed to look, they didn't do a shot with the car and the lion coming at the same time, coming together, because they just couldn't get it. So they just separated, made it two different cuts. And so they had the guy, and there was a fence there. And they had the guy stand inside the fence and call Neil. And Neil turned around and saw him And he got up and he started going, and they had a ladder there, where the guy was climbing the ladder and jumping down the other side. And then he got out of the way, and the trainer came in, and so that was another one of the things. And then there's a funny outtake, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but funny outtake where he's supposed to be walking along, and then they start shooting at him. They start shooting at him, and he's supposed to run or whatever. And and they started shooting, and it was over his shoulder to the lion. And the handler said, "Sure, no, he will run, he will run," and just that he doesn't like those sounds. Okay, so not a thing. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang, bang. Kneel. And it would just keep going. It just walked and walked. It was, I don't know what they ever did to get that shot, but so the lion was fun.
Thank you guys for sharing these wonderful stories. You know we love hearing them. You guys, that's all the time we have for today. I know. Thank you for submitting your
Thank
wonderful
you all.
questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Wonderful guests that we have today. Go see them at the table. Say thank you again. And before you go, this year our charity is Cure Childhood Cancer. So if you can give, please do so. We greatly appreciate it. DragonCon matches contributions of $100,000, and we would love to do that again for, I want to say, like the 4th year in a row.
It's 125.
They upped it to 125, so let us give that money away. You guys have a great convention. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you again.